Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. My name is Jason Call, one of your co-hosts, founder of Handyman Marketing Pros, and with me, Alan Lee, owner of the Handyman Journey, business coaching, and also Honestly Handyman Services. Our mission with this podcast, if you've been with us before, as you probably know, is to teach and inspire other handyman and contractor business owners to ultimately just bless their lives and in their business through the stories of other successful handyman businesses. We're super excited today to have Marlin Landers out of Boise, Idaho-ish area. Thanks so much for coming on, Marlin. If you don't mind, just giving us a background on yourself and your business and just kind of lay of the land.
Yeah. I'm Marlin Landers, owner and operator of Landers Home Services, LLC. Specialize in all kinds of handyman stuff. We kind of dabble into the smaller remodel stuff. Been in business for myself for about 3.5 years. At one time I had one employee, but we just recently moved to Idaho. I used to live in Southern California. That's where I started my business. And I worked there for, I would say about a year, 2 years, somewhere around 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And that's where I really started my business. And then we moved to Idaho and I kind of restarted my business up here.
Awesome. What was that? I guess if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your transition from California to Idaho, like what prompted that and kind of just any notable changes like business wise that you glean from that?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we started our business in California. Everything was, it's kind of a hometown for us. One of the cities there is closely, was named after our family, Landers. And so it was kind of a hometown grow up and everybody knew everybody. So it was kind of easy to start my business there. We started our business and everybody knew us. So everybody referred us and we didn't really have to advertise. And then we got to the point where we just kind of wanted out of California and to move closer to, we have lots of family that lives here in Idaho. And so we moved up here. Well, we chose to make that decision to move and, carry on the business and bring it up here and start it brand new. Definitely a whole different world up here. It's definitely a bigger city. It's a huge city compared to what we're used to. We're used to a very small town feel and vibe. So here it's a big city living and a lot more customers, a lot more phone calls, a lot more everything. So yeah.
That's really good. And do you mind kind of talking about maybe the differences? Cause like you've I don't know, it's an abnormal thing, but it's really beneficial, I think, because you've been able to basically start your business twice, in 2 different locations. So
right.
Can you maybe talk about some of the things that you did to start your handyman business in California as far as marketing goes and how you're doing that maybe differently in Idaho? You mentioned that you didn't really have to market in, where you were in California, but what does that look like and how have you kind of, navigated that?
Yeah, when I first started my business in California, like I said, it was a very small town vibe and everybody knew everybody, especially our name, the name Landers. Everybody knew Landers. All my family down there has been local general contractors, concrete contractors, stuff like that. So everybody kind of knew us and it was really easy to gain business from that. So when I first started, really the only thing I did was, I started a Google page, I started a Yelp page, and I kind of did that for a while and that gave me some business, but I was getting the majority of my business from referrals from friends, family, stuff like that. And then a family member of mine told me about BNI, and I joined that for about a year and a half. And that really boosted my business. I was getting so many different things from that, so many different jobs. And it was really, I mean, we were in a way set right where we wanted to be in our business. I hired on another technician, which was my brother at the time. He was working with me full time. It was kind of scary when I first hired him on. We were making the bills and everything else, but didn't know how it was going to be, and we were just starting to book further and further out. So we hired on my brother, and of course, that ended up being our best month that year. Well, before when we only had myself, so we totally expanded, and he kind of took his own truck and did his own route, and I did my own route. I was still answering the phone calls and the Yelp messages and the Google stuff. And we were booked out a few weeks. Everything was going great. And then we decided to move. So yeah, like perfect position for a company to be in. And we're like, yeah, let's leave. Let's start over. So yeah, we decided to move to Idaho and start up our business here. That was a big challenge compared to when I started my business at first. When we came here, it was September, so it was just getting ready to hit winter. The winters here are definitely different than Southern California.
Yeah, they have
snow
winters.
And yeah, exactly. They have winters. So I felt like it was kind of struggling, or it was very hard to get up off the ground for the business. I didn't really know a lot of people. I have family here, but they kind of referred me here and there. So I went back to my kind of roots and, changed all my Google profile, my Yelp profile. And the biggest thing I think we started here was we send out some postcards, stuff like that to targeted areas. Again, it was wintertime. There wasn't a lot of work. So, that I kind of knew of anyway. So we just tried to advertise as we were a new business in the area. We did handyman stuff, and we made it through the winter for sure. Made it through the winter, and slow, but we sold our house in California, so we weren't like really hurting for money. We just kind of wanted to start this business the right way and just get it to take off naturally.
Kind of get to where it was in California, but now in Idaho.
Yeah, well, how it got to in California. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I was just saying, like, that's kind of the goal. Is like we need to get it back to kind of where we had it there. Yeah.
Right. So it was just it was new to us because it's starting out in a whole different area, big city. Like I said, I mean, where in California, everybody knew everybody at the grocery store. You hear it's different. You don't see the same people. There's so many different kinds of people here and everything else. So I had to kind of go out on a limb and just do what I was doing. And then I got with you, Jason, and you built me that awesome website and started doing some Google ads with you. And that's when my business kind of started taking back off, and we were getting more phone calls and, getting to the point where we were busier with the work that we wanted to do, the handyman stuff. Like I said, we kind of dabble into the small remodel stuff, but we wanted to stick with the handyman stuff, the smaller items, the smaller punch list, stuff like that. And those Google ads, I really feel like really made our business kind of take off from there. I swear, as soon as you kicked it on, it was like the next day we were getting phone calls.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was the goal. And so getting to that point where the transition from California to Idaho, me and my wife have always wanted to work together. She worked for a school down in California, but we knew that when we moved the business up to Idaho that we would want to work together, and she was going to maybe answer the phone calls at a certain point in time where, I felt like I needed to have somebody answer the phone calls. So, we started getting to the point where I was on jobs and it was kind of a pain for me to answer the phone or respond to emails or whatever. And so we had my wife go full time answering the phones and stuff like that, answering emails and all the business stuff, the stuff that I didn't, I don't mind doing, but when you're, up in an attic trying to do something and your phone's ringing off the hook, you can't answer.
Yeah. Right.
So my wife started answering, and that was when I would say customers started looking at us a little different. Mm-hmm. They were almost surprised when my wife would answer the phone, like, "Hi, this is April from Landers Home Services," and everybody'd be like, "Am I calling the handyman?" And
right.
she'd be like, "Yeah," and it would show our professionalism that way, and that I have somebody answering the phones. That's when I feel like our business really took off, because she was able to answer more calls, respond quicker. If she missed a call or an email or whatever, she would be able to get right back on it. And we're looking really good this year. We're booked out a couple of weeks, almost 2 weeks right now. And things have just been going a lot smoother ever since I did the Google ads.
Yeah, that's huge. And I would agree with you. When you get someone there, whether it's your wife or a hired person, to answer the phone, like, it really takes you to that next level, because people just start viewing your business differently, Yeah,
they
like
do.
Rather than, oh, this is just some guy that's like, on the top of a roof about to fall off and he's just going to come help me out, for super cheap.
Yeah.
Like, you're actually talking to someone that, is hired into that position to talk with you, and then you'll talk to the handyman if you move down the road and want to move to the next level. So I think that's huge. Yeah, that's something that we talked about in a coaching call like a month or two ago, like someone asking about who they should hire, an office assistant or a technician. I think the biggest balance there is like, well, do you want more help with the labor, and are you confident with your marketing and be able to fuel that? But still you have to do all the admin stuff. So it's kind of like the weighing the pros and cons between the stress and the amount of work that comes into the office admin side, which, especially if you're not able to answer the phone on the spot, when voicemails and missed calls and texts and emails, they pile up, and that becomes, a big burden for the business owner when you get home, and then you got another 2 hours of admin work.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. You feel like you're working 24/7.
Yeah, definitely. So while we're talking about that for a second, maybe you could take us kind of into your mind, because you kind of mentioned when you hired your brother back in California. What was that like as far as like mindset is concerned? And what was that like to actually take that plunge and hire that first employee, albeit your brother, but he's still an employee? What was that like? What kind of like toll did that take on you personally, and how'd you make that happen?
It got to the point where I was getting, in California, we did a lot of work for Airbnbs. We were based out of Joshua Tree, California. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's a big tourist area. We have a national park there and everything else. And so we had a lot of Airbnbs there. And so we got to the point where, or our business got to the point where it was bringing on so much work from those Airbnbs, and they were smaller jobs, the handyman stuff, just, tighten up doors and stuff like that, where we kind of just went through and did maintenance for them and stuff. And I really started feeling like I was getting behind, like the homeowners or the property managers for those Airbnbs were getting to the point where it's like, man, you can't get out there for 2 weeks. And I kind of had to just say, well, I need to hire somebody, And my brother lived in the area at the time, and he basically said, I'll help you. So at first it kind of started out where he was just kind of helping me on a few jobs here and there. And then before you know it, it would be like, hey, can you go to this job and do this one yourself? And then it got to the point where it's like, hey, can you just do this route? And it's like, well, we might have to start talking about a little bit better money, you know?
Just reeled them in.
Yeah, exactly. Because, yeah, I mean, that's how it usually starts with family, you know, working with you. It's like first they're helping you out, and then it's like, hey, man, you need to pay me. So, yeah, it got to the point where we were busy enough where I was just like, you know what, let's bring him on full time. And because I was only using him really on my busier days, but I figured if I can book him a route and book myself a route, then we would be doing twice as much work, and there should be no reason why I couldn't pay him for the whole day or whatever. So he got to the point where he was doing his whole route and I was doing my whole route. We've both been pretty handy for our whole lives, really. We've been working in the construction industry since we were like, 10 and 12 years old with family and stuff. So I could trust him with doing things the way that I liked things being done. And we just we don't like to Mickey Mouse things. So we do it the right way the first time, and that kind of made our name. And yeah, so we just hired him on full time and kind of took off from there. And that's when we started booking out. Even the two of us, we were booked out for like almost a month out.
Wow.
Most of the time. Yeah.
Wow. So even though you had two guys running two separate routes and you got to do jobs quicker, more jobs came in and that fulfilled your calendar. Was it just like a magic pill, or people started realizing that you could do more jobs?
It gets to the point where, you start losing customers because you're booked out, a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it may be, especially for smaller items. Like, when you have a kitchen sink that's leaking or something, you kind of need somebody sooner rather than later. And you'd start losing that business. So it was just a matter of time that, we had to hire somebody on, and that way we could get to customers quicker. And in a way, that kind of was the magic pill. And I keep going back to it. I mean, California, it was a lot different for us because our name was known, and if you needed somebody, you would always just give us a call and we would be there. We would fudge things, make it work, same day stuff sometimes, but depending on. And we started offering like emergency services and stuff like that, especially for our Airbnbs. We were able to, charge a premium rate for that, for those Airbnbs. And, you let them know up front what those charges are. And they're just happy to have somebody that will go out there at 9:00 at night sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a fine balance between the handyman trade, of course, has so much involved with it. And, one question I'd have for you certainly is like the light remodeling, like what does that look like and why do you take those on? But for me too, the emergency service, that's a whole other ball game. And I guess in my mind, the handyman, it's always been, you get in there and you do that one job, but then the real trade is those improvements and repairs that aren't necessarily emergency, like, the faucet leaking where, someone could just call emergency plumber, but like, fixing the doors or, those kind of home improvements, but actually getting there. And then I know, Alan, you do the home maintenance inspection as part of your guys' sales process, but that's where like the bread and butter comes in there, is like, they're not emergency items. They're just those items like, oh yeah, we need to do that. We've been putting it off long enough, But anyway, just a quick observation there. But so on the lighter remodeling stuff, like what does that look like for you, Marlin? And like, when do you take those kind of jobs, or like why? Because I know I talk with a lot of folks that they kind of think about getting into that, but it's kind of like, they're not sure what they're getting into, and certainly larger remodeling is a whole other ball game. But what does that light remodeling look like for you and your business? The main reason I kind of looked into it really would be the fact that the winters here are so different than the winters in Southern California. So when it comes to booking work in the wintertime, I would be able to do maybe those remodels in the wintertime and the handyman stuff in the summertime, springtime, stuff like that, where the jobs that we take on
for the remodels and stuff, there'll be a small remodel, like a bathroom remodel. We'll go in there, we'll pull everything out of it, toilet, sink, and, paint the whole room, put in some new vanity, put in a new toilet, maybe do some flooring, stuff like that. But really the only reason we do it is to fill in that time for the winter time. But honestly, we don't take on a lot of that work just because the majority of our work is still being brought in just the handyman stuff. So if it is something remodel that we look into doing, it's not necessarily put on the back burner, but it's booked out a little further so we can kind of make time for that. And at the same time, we're kind of juggling back and forth between going to that job, doing those things, more smaller items at a time. We won't go in there and just rip everything out and then replace it. We'll pull everything out, maybe do flooring if they have a separate bathroom or stuff like that. Or remodel. I mean, it could be just as much as, pulling bedroom carpet out, putting some flooring in, new baseboard, and painting the room, putting a new ceiling fan up, that's kind of where the smaller remodels come in, where it's not such a big remodel. But at the same time, we work for a lot of property management companies too. So when it comes to that kind of stuff, we have to book out or book for a couple of days where a rental will be come available, and somebody will move out of a rental. We'll come in there and we will patch all the holes. We'll paint. We'll do touch-up paint. We'll swap out light fixtures or stuff like that. Get everything up to par for the next renter to come in, so it's turnkey ready for them. And we do things like that too. So
that's great.
Sweet. You mentioned property managers there. I guess one question I had too was, in California, you did the BNI and it was more like networking and people knew you. Have you done anything similar to that in Idaho? Or like how, developing relationships with these property managers?
Yeah. I guess I think it was about 6 months ago, a realtor reached out to me and asked me to really consider about this. It's like a realtor group. It's not necessarily like BNI. We don't necessarily meet once a week or once a month or anything like that. It's more of an online group, and they have an app on your phone or tablet or whatever, and you can search home service providers, whether it be plumbers, roofers, stuff like that. And this lady reached out to me and says, I haven't ever seen a handyman in our book or in our app or in our database. So would you be interested in it? You would kind of be our go-to handyman. And so I definitely said, yeah, let's do it. It was something that I had to pay for to be a part of or whatever. But all in all, I thought that it was a good move for the business. And so we decided to go with it. And there's a lot of realtors that reach out to us now for just mainly after an inspection happens for a sale of a home. You'll have a punch list of items that need to be repaired or stuff like that. And they reach out to us and we go ahead and knock the whole list out for them, where, is if you hire a plumber, you have to have a plumber go do the plumbing, the electrical, or electrician do the electrical, stuff like that. We're kind of a one-stop shop for that. And we just kind of do their punch list of things. And that's really brought a lot of business to us as well.
Is that like $30, $50 a month kind of association dues, or? And I ask because I usually lump this in with, for me, BNI, Chamber of Commerce, realtor associations. I'm not sure if that's what they would call it there, but
it's like a realtor association.
Yeah, and I know in our area it's huge, and a lot of home service providers, you can join that, show up to a meeting every once in a while, sponsor the breakfast.
Right.
There's a window cleaning company. I know the owner, and the only marketing he does is twice a year he shows up with breakfast to these realtor association meetings. That's all he does. And anyway, you get on their list as a provider, you get to meet realtors, they just get to know you. So it's a really wonderful networking directory opportunity as well, just getting in a list.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just being on that list. And I mean, she even informed me that, I would be their sole handyman in their directory. So I'm like, yeah, of course. And I mean, I think it was $900 for the year. Or no, that was a 2-year commitment. So it was $900 for 2 years. So
okay.
Not too bad.
Yeah. $400 or $40 a month. And I think it's funny that she said you'd be the only handyman. Whenever I talk to people about joining BNI and Chamber of Commerce and showing up to these networking events and getting out there, I can confidently say that there are no other handymen that are doing that. And I look forward to that changing in the future. But occasionally there's a plumber, electrician, HVAC. They all join these lists, but it's certainly an unmet opportunity for a lot of the handyman trade.
It's funny though, since we've been doing this podcast, I had one other handyman join our local Chamber of Commerce.
Oh,
and
yeah?
He's like, oh, I know you, Alan, from your podcast, and you guys told me to join the Chamber of Commerce. So
yeah,
now I'm not the only handyman.
No, that's good, man. Yeah, you get voted as like best handyman Citrus Heights.
Yeah.
So joining the Chamber of Commerce, realtor associations, BNIs, like it's just an unmet opportunity,
right?
In most, I would 99.9% of markets.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like the handyman journey. We're literally changing the name of the handyman industry. So for so long, the handyman has just been like a chuck in a truck, driving around with tools in their truck and fixing stuff, right? But we're actually making something legit. So the majority of it right now is like there is so much like market to be had for the handyman.
Yeah,
you can go out there and really, really take it up because other handymen are not doing what they need to do in order to actually create a sustainable business,
Yep.
Right.
I look forward to, someone telling me, hey, you said I'd be the only handyman in the Chamber of Commerce, but I'm the second one.
Yes. Right.
Right.
Yeah, we're growing this thing. So Marlin, overall, you mentioned last winter is the first winter when you moved to Idaho. And it was kind of sparse, right? You just moved there in September. So how is this winter looking as compared to last? Like, is it looking better, or is it still like, it's still the winter?
It's definitely looking better. I think for the biggest part about that is we have a lot of property managers that we work for up here now, where they feed us a lot of our business. Property managers and real estate agents, stuff like that. They've been feeding us a lot of work alone. So there's sometimes where, if somebody calls us for something, sometimes we don't get those phone calls throughout a day. I mean, I would say every other day. And then all of a sudden, sometimes where it's just the phone just rings off the hook. I think that's for everybody, though. I mean, that's not just my area or anything. The biggest pain point here is the city's so big. There's lots of handymen. Why choose me? So we have to stand out. We have to do something different than the other people are doing, and just the property managers that have reached out to us to hire us on for certain things. I mean, they look at us and they're like, man, you're so much more professional than handyman around here. You have a website, you have somebody answering your phones. That's huge for property managers because, when they have a tenant calling them saying, hey, my faucet's leaking or whatever, and they can physically call their handyman and we have somebody answering the phone and getting them on the schedule, or just reaching out to that tenant saying, hey, we can be out there this day, is huge. And they appreciate that too. So
that's great. That's awesome. So you would say that's kind of your secret sauce that sets you apart from others, just more professional, having someone answer the phone and being kind of Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, that and showing up with that doesn't isn't smoking out of the van and I don't know. I always have that picture of that guy like have a guy coming over here to fix my air conditioner or whatever, and it's like some guy jumping out of his Ford Escort with a fold up ladder and smoking a cigarette. We kind of set ourselves apart from that, and we have uniforms and have somebody answering the phone. We're professional, and we pride ourselves in doing the job right the first time. And if it's something that we can't do, we'll find somebody that can do it for you. The majority of the time, but the majority of the time we can take care of it.
Yeah. I tell people all the time that there is an incredible demand for professional handyman service. Underscoring professional. Sure. There's so many, I see it all the time on the Facebook groups of like, I can't charge that much. No one would pay that. And it's like, well, most people probably wouldn't, at least the people you've been working with, but there is this slice at the top that they want to pay a premium rate because the guy shows up in uniform and is clean and isn't smelling like cigarettes. And, they got on their schedule. It's all organized. There are people, your ideal clients, they want that organization. They want to be put on a schedule, They don't want to just get a text like, oh, I'll be there sometime tomorrow, I think. Okay. Like, there's so much demand for that.
Yeah, it's funny, we were having a discussion about this recently in the Handyman Journey group, and one guy was saying that he doesn't have clients that ask him to lower his price anymore now that he's raised his price.
Let me get him in here.
Yeah, so we had a discussion where, one guy said that he hasn't had anyone ask him to lower his price now that he's raised his price. And I think the main reason for that is because now that has a higher price point, he's raised his price, he's attracting clients that aren't really as worried about price. And so it's kind of interesting when you start getting into a different realm of clientele. When you first start out, you're charging $25 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever it is. You're going to be getting the people that want to pay that, and they expect that type of work. But when you start getting up into the range where you're charging $150, $200 an hour even, you're going to be attracting a whole different type of client that's not really as worried about the price point, but they're really worried about like the white glove service,
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge testament to kind of think about is like, that's the threshold that you need to break through when you're talking about pricing and raising pricing and creating, basically attracting more clientele that want that,
And there's such there's a huge demand and an undersupply of it. So when people like you, Marlin, that are just presenting yourself in that way and providing that experience, you're just setting yourself apart from the 95% of them that they're fighting for that bottom, the lower price points and those kind of clients. So. So all our listeners, don't be scared to, be professional and charge accordingly because there's just incredible demand for it.
Yep, definitely. Like in the newest Handyman Journey book, I opened it up with this story of Tommy Callahan, where he was talking about, he's like, your dad could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. He's like, what? You can't sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. It's like, well, you can if you have enough finesse and, you talk it up and you really tell them how to use that ketchup popsicle and not get it on their white gloves. Or, it's all about service and creating that kind of thought process around the thing that you offer. So that's huge.
And there's more demand for handyman than ketchup popsicles, I'm sure.
There is.
That's a positive benefit.
Yeah, you just got to make sure you're not eating your ketchup popsicle while you go to the client's house and they get it all over their white gloves. That won't go very well.
Like serial killer level right there. That's just a ketchup popsicle, man. I don't know.
I swear it's ketchup. Okay, so Marlin, how do you go about doing estimates? Like, what does that look like in your business? I know that there's a few different philosophies. Some people just do them whenever they can. They swing by at 7:00 at night, and just give an estimate. But then there's also other people who book out a full day to do estimates. Like, what does that look like for your business?
I think for us, we try and do a lot of estimates based off of, so uh, my wife will get a phone call and say it's for a ceiling fan. Well, we have a pretty standard rate for ceiling fans, whether it has the brace. So she can pretty much give them a couple of different price scenarios based
Hmm.
off of, you just want a ceiling fan installed. Are we replacing a existing light fixture? Are we replacing an existing fan? So there's a lot of items like that she can probably just quote right from her little cheat sheet
Hmm.
of different things that we offer. If it's something a little bit more entailed, she gathers their information and tells them that she'll submit all that information to the estimator, and the estimator will reach out to them if they need any more information or to do the estimate. Most of the time, she'll ask for them to maybe send some pictures if she thinks that I can probably do an estimate off of some pictures. And, at first it was really quirky working out that kind of stuff. But the more and more of those phone calls she takes and everything, the smoother it gets. She kind of knows already what what questions I'll be asking. So she's able to ask those questions while they're on the phone. She puts that information into our system, and I'm able to go in there and say, oh, this lady wants a ceiling fan or 3 ceiling fans or whatever. I'll write up a rough draft of an estimate, send it off to them, and they can either accept from there, and then she'll call them back. We'll get them on the books. I'll go out there, and if 9 times out of 10, I would say that it's exactly what we've estimated for, and we just go from there. The ones that are maybe the smaller remodels, painting a bedroom or whatever, or just the fact that some of our customers are older and they're not savvy with texting a picture or texting at all. So those are the times where we'll usually just set up an hour window and I'll go out there and take a look at it. I still do those free estimates like that. Yes, even with the gas prices nowadays. But yeah, we try and cater to them if that's what it needs. And we'll go out there and we'll take measurements or whatever, and we'll get them an estimate that way. And most of the time I can pretty much have an estimate to them by the time I leave there, if not within 24 hours.
Hmm. Awesome. That's great. What would you say would be your biggest wins in your business? Albeit just kind of all from California and Idaho. What would be one of your biggest wins that you said you have taken?
Biggest wins? I think for one, having my business in California and having my business here, I think the biggest win that I have is being able to hire my wife full time to answer the phones. That's a huge win, just because it takes a lot of headache away from me trying to be the technician and the person answering the phone and doing all the business stuff. I mean, she does my expenses through QuickBooks and all that stuff. I mean, she does all that stuff. That's a huge win for me. For my business. A huge win for my business would definitely be reaching out to Jason to, get me a website built and being able to incorporate, because I had a website before, but just the different things that he was able to do with my website, where, you can go to my website, you can create a request for an estimate right from my website, and their information dumps right into my system, and we can reach out to the customer from there. And that's how we try and channel all of our estimates, and everything is just go to our website, go to our website, go to our website. That way they can request their information that they want. It goes into our system. We reach out to them from there, and it just makes it so streamlined. I just love that part of it.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. I mean, there's so many like moving pieces to like making a business like work for you, and, not being, hung up with phone calls, voicemails, estimates. Is it a Facebook message? Is it an Instagram? Is it a, text message? So, and then when you look at all the CRMs and who's answering the phone, the website, there's all these things. When you get them together, they can really start working for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And anyone that's listening right now, if you're interested in getting a high quality handyman website, it's handymanmarketingpros.com. That's where you're going to want to go. Talk to my man Jason here. That's awesome, Marlin. Thanks for sharing that. What would you say would be some of your biggest losses that you have faced, both in your business and personally?
Hardships.
Hardships. Yeah, we can loosen it up.
You don't lose till you give up.
That's true. Right. He has not lost because he's still going. So what have been some hiccups?
Still got a couple of fingers on there.
What have been some hiccups that you've experienced?
I mean, it was a big struggle for us to start our business back up in Idaho. I mean, it was starting all over, and it was a different world than we were naturally. So, hiccups, we had all kinds of hiccups at the beginning when we started our business here. Just where to advertise, how to advertise. In California, I mean, it was weird because California was so different. I got the majority of my business through Yelp for not advertisement, but the sites and everything else. Mm-hmm. Like Yelp I was constantly getting phone calls from people that were checking me out on Yelp. Mm-hmm. Where Idaho, I don't even think they use Yelp. I really don't. Like, I don't even know if anybody uses it here. So just from area to area, those are, it's different everywhere. That's where you have to kind of learn that whole, how do I advertise here versus there?
Yeah. I think too, like in your story, it showed like the fundamentals are the same everywhere though. Like, having your business set up right, the website, Google, online reviews, and then you take for granted when you grow up in a place, everyone knows you. So you've already done the networking side, right? But even going somewhere new, like your people are just waiting to meet you, in the chamber and realtor association. So, I would say that as encouragement to anyone that feels like they don't know where to start. Look at the fundamentals, go shake hands and meet people, because there are people that need a lot of help in every single market. They just don't know you yet. And the best way to go out and meet people is to go out and meet people.
That's good.
And when you look at those organizations too, BNI, realtor associations, chamber, these people, they're pre-qualified, that, they're at least to a level where they could be a really great ideal client. They likely have friends, family, neighbors that would be ideal clients as well for your handyman service. So the fundamentals are the same. But yeah, when you look at platform to platform based on area, it's Yelp and all these different options, it can just give you a headache, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
I would say another big pain point for me was, in California, we had our prices set. I mean, our prices didn't change much, I mean, we would maybe raise our prices here and there, but coming into a new area, we didn't even know what to charge. So doing research there, that was kind of hard to find out where we were going to be able to be, and if people would be willing to pay the prices that we had or stuff like that. That was a kind of a roller coaster at first, where you'd start out somewhere and, we ended up a whole different area for price wise.
Is it somewhere close, like now that you've kind of figured it out, or is it still completely different than what you did charge in California?
It's crazy because in California, I felt like our prices were pretty reasonable and, affordable. Mm-hmm. And we moved up to Idaho, and we kind of, at first I was just like, well, why don't we just keep them kind of right where they're at and see where we can go from there, I mean, and, the first, I would say month, people weren't really accepting our estimates. It wasn't happening. So we kind of lowered our prices a little bit, and we started getting more work. And then soon as springtime hit, things were starting to pick up, and, we've ramped up from there where we're almost charging a lot more than we were in California now versus when we first started, just because the prices are definitely really similar to California's for the different items and stuff like that. But, you get to the point where you are able to offer that premium pricing for the certain, like you were saying, white glove treatment that you give them, and you have to charge accordingly. And we're finding our ideal customer now. And I feel like that's where it's really coming into play, where those are the customers that we really want to work for and the customers that we can really help.
It's funny how like your price and then backed up with the quality that goes into that price kind of like leads itself to like the ideal clients, right? Like
it really does. Yeah.
Your client is drawn to, not drawn to the price necessarily, but they're drawn to the quality and they understand the price that comes with that. So, I know, Alan, I always love the story of like whenever you were, because people sometimes they can feel super tied to their pricing. But when you're smaller, it's a lot easier, right? When it's just yourself as owner operator, wife answering the phone, there's a lot more flexibility there where you can change your price and then change it back in an hour. I mean, I remember whenever it was like last year, you were playing around with pricing when you did some huge increases and you went up to like, what was it? $250 and you were there for like a couple weeks and then you brought it down to, ultimately closer where you settled on. But the amazing thing was, I remember you told me like people were accepting bids at that rate. It depends on your business and how booked out and your technicians, all these different factors. But, one other quick one I'll share on pricing real quick is there's this guy I talked to he was in like Los Angeles. No, he's in the Bay Area, like super upscale Bay Area. And he charged like $250 an hour. It's just himself. And he worked part-time and only just, he didn't have to do much work every week, but it worked for him. And he just had this great clientele base that we're paying him $250, $300 an hour to do like ceiling fans and electrical things and little minor home improvements. But to me, it's just, you can play around with your pricing and don't be scared to test around your market.
I think listeners will be shocked to think of what they could actually charge clients and actually people will pay for. And if you want to try that, like try charging more and see what kind of clientele you bring in, and see if that works for you. Because I was amazed when we went up to 250. Like, we sold a few jobs that were like, wow, that was amazing. Just crazy what people were willing to pay for the certain jobs that we did. What we found here, at least, that was not entirely sustainable. That's why we ended up lowering down a little bit. But it's amazing.
And you back it up with the quality too and the white glove service. Like that's we're not sitting here saying if you don't have anything going on operationally, marketing, professional wise, don't be trying to charge $200 an hour.
No, definitely not.
Right. So Marlin, what if there was someone brand new listening to this podcast, which there most likely is, that wants to get started in the handyman industry or maybe just got started, what kind of advice would you have for them, either in just getting started or wanting to get started? What kind of advice would you have for them?
Advice that I would have for somebody just starting their business or wanting to start their business, I would say jump in, but make sure you're wearing your boots because it's going to get messy. It's always messy at first, but being persistent and consistent to just, if you want to work for yourself and that's your goal and that's your dream, then do it and reach out to people. I mean, I reached out to a few handymen around here because handymen have that mentality where you'll get dirty looks in the Home Depot parking lot when you're seeing competition. And I've never been that type of person. I'm always that type of person like, hey man, how's it going? And they're shocked, it's like they're shocked in a way where it's like, oh, the competition is saying, hey, what's up to me? And I've reached out to a few of them around here and it's like, they're blown away when I'll sit down and I'll have coffee with you. Tell me what works for you. I'll tell you what works for me. There's plenty of work in this this area for all of us. I mean, it doesn't matter how many there is, and that's something that you should be willing to do is, jump on calls like this and, help people out, because that's just the way to do things, I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, getting coffee with your competition, you kind of mutually accept like there's an abundance of work, right? And the value and growth that you guys both get from that, and the connection, and, you learn what they do want, what they don't like. And there could be some trade-off there too, is, it's reaching out to folks. Like I remember Alan, I've mentioned this on the podcast multiple times because I love it. But when Alan first started, he's just called all the competitors and only like one or two answered and responded. But that's like, it's no surprise to see Alan where he is today, because like you just go out there and learn and meet folks that are doing it and learn from each other. So
especially, I mean, everybody's ideal customer could be totally different than yours. We were talking about ideal customer earlier, where it's like my ideal customer could be wanting to pay me $500 an hour, where they're just looking to make $20. I mean, who knows? That customer that you want to work for, there's tons of different customers out there, and there's no reason why us as handymen are just normal, good human beings, just need to help people. I'm in it to help customers. Why wouldn't I be in it to help somebody's business? So,
and I think that's good. And I think another reason to mingle with the competition, you could say, is because at the end of the day, it is helping the clients. Because like I've mingled with a lot of my competitors, and we've even had some of them here on the podcast. But it's important because I've found people that I agree with their persona and the way that they live life and the way that they do business. And they just happen to do handyman work, and they do good quality handyman work. So when we're too busy, we refer people to them,
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's helping my clients out, because it's like, even if I can't help my clients out, I want to find someone that I trust to help them, and then they would hopefully do the same for me. I know that some of them would, but at the end of the day, it's not really about what others do for you, but what you can do for others. Like I love this quote of, show respect even to people who don't deserve it, not as a reflection of their character, but a reflection of your character. I think that's really what matters in this world, is who we are and who we project ourselves to be,
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I love your, we kind of went off there, but your advice was go for it and be persistent.
Yeah.
Something that was always told to me when I was a kid was, you got to love what you do, be good at what you do, but then be persistent. You can love it and be good at it, but man, business and life is hard, and you can feel beaten down, but you just got to stick with it through like the times where, especially at the start, I personally think that, getting started is certainly probably the hardest part. And there's big challenges that come in every phase of business, but just getting started and getting out there and being persistent with it, there's so much opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't give up.
That initial jump for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Marlin, I wanted to thank you so much for being here on the Handyman Success Podcast. It's truly an honor. Every time we get to talk with you, we love how you operate business, and love just your mentality on business. So thank you so much for who you are and all that you do. And representing California there in Idaho.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
And it's funny too, man, because you talk about like, in California you were in a small town, then you moved to Idaho and it's big city. Usually it's reversed.
I thought it was,
and I live in rural California, so it's funny because it's so, it's misinterpreted a lot of times. Hey, there's small towns in California too, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, for all the viewers and listeners out there, we really appreciate you guys tuning into the Handyman Success Podcast. You guys are the reason why we do this. We hope that you glean some information from this podcast. We would love to connect deeper with you and take it to the next level. We have a few handyman Facebook groups. We have the Handyman Journey Mastermind group on Facebook, and then also the Handyman Success Mastermind group on Facebook, where we have all of our guests here on the Handyman Success Podcast join that group. We're going to get Marlin in there. So if you have any follow-up questions, want to talk to them more about things that you learned or questions that you had during this podcast, that would be the time to do it. And we would also love to connect with you. You can reach both of us really at handymanjourney.com. We've talked about coaching. We've talked about books. We've talked about many things in this podcast, and that's where you can gain access to all of them over at handymanjourney.com. And then you can reach Jason specifically for marketing expertise at handymanmarketingpros.com. But if you guys are watching on YouTube, like this video and also subscribe to this channel because it helps us out a lot. And these episodes of the Handyman Success Podcast come out once a month, the first day of every month. So make sure you check back wherever you listen to podcasts so that you can find the newest and improved episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. We really enjoy spending this time with you. We'll talk to you later. Catch you.